has done. I can trick you into killing as a conditioned reflex. Is your mind ready to live with what your body's done?
The Falklands War might have been short, but what it lacked in duration, it more than made up for in intensity. Thousands of miles from home, outgunned and outnumbered, the British troops had only one thing to fall back on: their training.
The training helps you overcome those natural feelings that you shouldn't be killing someone else. As callous and clinical as that sounds, you know, that was a way through it. So you were conditioned. And I never really thought about it before, but obviously my mind had been conditioned to do exactly that over many years of training.
I'm not going to say they brainwashed us, but this is where your army drill and discipline comes into play, because everything is you do it by word of command. If somebody tells you to fire over there, you just fire over there. You try and spot the target, you try and hit it, and you just go through the motions, just like a. It's exactly the same as a training exercise to a certain extent, but you got fixed bayonets and you're firing live ammunition.
Mark Sherburn Brown fought at Goose Green with 2 paras. It was one of the Falklands' bloodiest battles. On the cold, bare hills, British troops had to fight for every yard of territory.
It was horrendous. It's, nothing can prepare you for what, for what was seen and done and what you saw. It's just, it was very, what I call up close and personal. And I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, to be honest with you.
It was hard, brutal fighting, and the enemy was close.
Yeah, very close. Not far from the way we are.
You were this close to
In
people?
certain circumstances, yeah.
Fighting this close almost?
Yeah. Well, you were just running through them.
So they're in the trench, you're jumping in the trench?
Well, they're in a shell scrape, they're not in a proper trench. But they're in a shell scrape and you're just running over them and doing what you have to do.
So people are shooting people from within 2 or 3 feet?
Yeah, in some cases people were using bayonets.
Now, if you have to kill someone that's crying for their mother, you see their fear, you smell their fear, and you see all those things, all those human emotions, for asking you for clemency, for sympathy, and you still kill them. That's hard. That's a hard thing to do.
Modern war is fought mostly from a distance. And as we know, when we look in Iraq or Vietnam, one of the ways in which you get psychiatric casualties up is to close that distance. Make people fight in close quarters. Make them see clearly and quickly what they have done.
It's now over 20 years since the Falklands War ended. But to soldiers like Mark, the battle could have been yesterday.
I go through a hard time. I have sleepless nights. I find it hard to sleep because I know what to expect during the night. And it's a replay, and it's so vivid. I get a flashback at least once a day.
Once a day?
Yeah. There's not a day that, since I've left, since 1982, there isn't a day that goes back that I don't see something.
Right. And does that tend to be a sort of, general impression, trace of fire, noise, darkness, or is it something specific?
It's something specific.
So it'll be someone's face or some action that happened?
Yeah, yeah. And it's not pleasant, because it's right at the, it's right at the front of your mind.
Right.
But you just learn to deal with it as best as you can.
Do you mind me asking what it is?
It's a young Argentinian with his brains in his helmet.
Right.
Which is, I see it every day, so I'm used to it now. But the memory is still that good. I can, because it was so bloody cold out there, that you could see the steam rising off his brains that was in his helmet, and he also shot the fuck as well. To be honest with you, he had more than just one in him. But no, it wasn't a pretty sight.
Speaking with Mark showed me a side of war that few of us like to think about. Your days filled with flashbacks, your nights with bad dreams. Unable to sleep, Mark now spends his nights talking to other Falklands veterans, the only people who really understand the hell he's going through. 252 British servicemen died in the Falklands War, but more than 200 are thought to have committed suicide since, unable to live with what they saw and did. Because no matter how well you've been trained, you can never escape the fact that killing goes against everything that our biology and morality tell us. Mark, is there a difference between killing in war and murder?
If you're... There is a difference. But there isn't a difference, if you know what I mean, because at the end of the day, you still, you know, your job is to kill people. And if you did that here in Civvy Street, you know, and you kill somebody, you'd be classed as a murderer. But when you're in the military, it is a justified means to an end, to the end result. It's legalised murder.
Murder. It makes me realise how naive I was when I started out on this journey. Growing up on a diet of boys' comics and war movies, I'd been led to believe that killing was easy. That when the bugle sounded, we'd all march away, duff up Jerry, and be back home in time for tea and medals. But taking another man's life is extremely hard, and living with the consequences can be even harder. And while modern armies have come up with a technique to make men kill, there probably won't be anything similar they can do to help them forget the things they've done.
The people who really have to carry out the dirty work are the troops, the warriors. And when they come home from having done all that, the last thing they really want to hear from anybody is how ridiculous that war was that they've just been fighting in.
There is honor if you honor those who do it. There is glory if you give them glory. And if we're going to send men off to do this desperate, wretched, vile business, we have to give them honor and glory. They have earned it. And the battlefield destroys enough. It's not for us to destroy men after the battle.
Soldiers hate war because they're the ones after dying them. And having gone through a war, you will find people like soldiers far more aware, acutely aware of the misery of war than the general population could ever have. So they must be respected, and they don't get respected.
So in some ways, the fate of the soldier is in all our hands. George Orwell said, "We sleep safe in our beds because rough men walk in the night prepared to do violence in our names." Sure, killing is nasty, vicious, horrible stuff, but sometimes somebody has to do it. And if we were shocked to learn that our soldiers couldn't kill 50 years ago, then perhaps we shouldn't judge them too harshly. Now they can.
Find out more at channel4.com/science, where you can also take part in a live web chat right now with reporter Grub Smith. Next tonight, a businessman disappears without a trace, and the investigation leads to a vicious, tangled web.